People think theme parks make money by selling tickets. They don't. In fact, if ticket sales were the real business, many of the world's biggest theme parks would never justify the tens of billions of dollars invested in them. That sounds impossible. After all, every visitor buys a ticket, every family enters through the same gate, every roller coaster, every parade, every fireworks show begins with that single purchase. So how could tickets not be the business? Because what visitors see and what investors see are two completely different businesses. Visitors see castles, roller coasters, characters, fireworks, and smiling employees. Investors see cash flow, infrastructure, real estate. Customer behavior, lifetime value, and assets that can keep generating money for decades. Those are two completely different ways of looking at exactly the same place. By the end of this documentary, you'll understand what theme parks are really selling, where the money actually comes from, why some parks become billion-dollar machines, why others quietly disappear, and why almost everything people believe about this business is only the surface of a much deeper economic story. But before we uncover the invisible business, let's begin with the one everyone already knows. Imagine arriving 30 minutes before opening. The parking lots are already filling. Children are pointing excitedly toward the entrance. Parents are checking maps, buying digital passes, making last-minute plans. Music slowly fills the air. Employees wave at every arriving family. Everything feels effortless, almost magical. That's exactly what you're supposed to feel. Because the greatest illusion inside a theme park is making one of the most complicated businesses on Earth look completely effortless. For a child, today is about adventure. For a parent, it's about making memories for the company. It's about managing one of the most complex operating systems in the entertainment industry. Thousands of employees, millions of moving parts, millions of dollars flowing through hundreds of different decisions. All synchronized so perfectly that guests never notice any of it, and strangely enough, success depends on guests never thinking about the business at all. Most people believe they're paying for rides. That seems perfectly reasonable. Roller coasters dominate the advertisements. Water rides appear on every billboard. The newest attraction becomes the biggest headline. Everything tells you the same story. This ride is why you should visit. But stop for a moment and ask a much more uncomfortable question. If rides create the business, why doesn't every wealthy city build a world-famous theme park? Roller coasters can be purchased, water attractions can be designed, restaurants can be copied, hotels can be copied. Even spectacular fireworks eventually become ordinary. So why have only a handful of companies managed to build parks that people willingly travel across continents to visit? Because rides were never the real competitive advantage. They're simply the most visible one. The real business hides underneath, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. A theme park isn't competing against another roller coaster. It's competing for something every person has and nobody can create more of. Time. Every guest enters the park with exactly the same amount. One day, no business meeting, no school, no office, no daily routine for a few precious hours. The park controls how that day unfolds. That may not sound valuable until you realize some of the world's largest companies are fighting for exactly the same thing. Netflix wants your evening, TikTok wants your attention. Shopping malls want your afternoon, sports leagues want your weekends, video games want your free time. Every entertainment business is competing for hours, not products. Theme parks simply compete in the most expensive way possible. They're not trying to own 15 minutes, they're trying to own your entire day. Think about what that really means. Imagine opening a bookstore. A customer walks in, buys one novel and leaves after 5 minutes. Now imagine another customer stays for 6 hours. They buy coffee. The more opportunities exist to create value. Theme parks understand this better than almost anyone. That's why almost everything inside the park quietly encourages one thing: stay longer, explore further, keep discovering. Because every additional hour changes the economics. One extra hour isn't just another 60 minutes, it's another chance to buy lunch, another drink, another souvenir, another family photo, another premium experience. Another reason to come back next year. Suddenly, time itself becomes inventory, and that's the first invisible business. Theme parks don't simply sell experiences, They monetize time, but capturing time creates another challenge. Keeping people inside is one thing, keeping them emotionally engaged is something entirely different. This is where the business becomes even more fascinating. Most companies measure customers by transactions. Theme parks measure something much harder: attention, not the kind of attention social media wants. Continuous attention, hour after hour, from the entrance until the fireworks end. Notice how little dead space exists inside a successful park. The music changes, the scenery changes, the smells change, characters suddenly appear around corners, parades interrupt ordinary movement, restaurants become attractions. Even gift shops feel like part of the story. None of that happens by accident, because the moment attention disappears, spending usually disappears with it. Think about airports. An airport isn't designed simply to move passengers from one gate to another. It deliberately guides millions of travelers through restaurants, coffee shops, luxury stores, bookshops, and waiting lounges. The longer passengers remain inside that environment, the greater the opportunity to generate revenue. Theme parks use exactly the same economic principle, only instead of flights, they use stories instead of departure gates. They use attractions instead of waiting lounges. They build immersive worlds, different business, same economics. Attention eventually becomes spending, but here's the strange part. Attention alone still doesn't explain why some parks become worth billions of dollars, because attention means nothing unless people move, and that's where another invisible business quietly begins. Guest movement. Watch people entering a park. Nobody thinks about the roads beneath their feet. Nobody questions why one restaurant sits beside one attraction, while another sits beside a lake. Nobody asks why the biggest gift shop almost always appears near the exit. It all feels natural, almost obvious, but almost none of it happened naturally. Every pathway, every bridge, every shaded bench, every restroom, every food stand, every shortcut, and every dead end was carefully planned long before the first guest ever arrived. Because movement changes spending. A family walking through 5 themed areas is exposed to 5 different opportunities, 5 different restaurants, 5 different merchandise stores, 5 different emotional experiences, 5 different chances to spend. Now compare that with a guest who rides one attraction and leaves, same ticket, completely different economics. The park isn't forcing anyone to spend, it's simply designing an environment where exploration naturally creates opportunity. And that's a completely different business model from what most people imagine. But movement leads to an even bigger question. If every path is designed, every attraction is positioned, and every minute has economic value, what exactly are theme parks really manufacturing? The answer isn't rides, it isn't food. And it isn't entertainment alone. They're manufacturing something people willingly spend thousands of dollars chasing, without ever being able to take it home: memories. And once you understand the economics of memories,